Raskin did nothing, mate. No, he did. You're talking rubbish. Raskin did absolutely nothing the day. You should have sold him last. We should have sold him last week. We should get rid of him in the transfer window. When they get the chance to. All this false hype about the guy. And Chermiti, your other hero. Chermiti, that's 2 games to the trot. He's done absolutely hee-haw for us. Hardly even touched the ball today. No, I'm sorry. I'm not having it. No, he's garbage. £8 million a mince. That's week. Don't start greeting. Jesus, don't start greeting about it. Oh, he started talking to me. I don't care if he's got nursery the more. If he's going to start telling me that he knows more about Rangers than me, that's fine. Okay, right, fine, whatever. That Coca-Cola, have you finished with it? Are you throwing that away? Because I'll finish. No, right, that's for the wee lassie, okay. That's a problem with these domestic cup games, you know. You get all these part-timers that turn up with their wains, think they know more about Rangers than I do. I'm loyal. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg immediate post. In the last 2 games, Rangers have scored 13 goals. In the last 2 Scottish Cup games, Rangers have scored 13 goals. In 2 consecutive halves of football, Rangers have scored 9 goals into the Broomland Road stand. You know, the second half on Wednesday and the first half today. The first half today, we scored 5 goals. 4 of them came from balls played in from the left-hand side. 3 of them came from corners in the left-hand side. And it doesn't matter how much I talk this up, I still can't change the fact that Queen's Park beat us 1-0 at this very same stage, this very same day almost last year, but that makes things feel a wee bit better. What we did to them today, reaction pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet tonight, 9:30 live on the Gersnet YouTube channel. It's going to be Rob and it's going to be John, and they're actually going to have a bit of work cut out for them tonight, because there's always a bit, it's a common thing on any Rangers podcast over the last few years that your work is often cut out for you, but it's a different way tonight, isn't it? Because you've got 8 goals to describe. That's the kind of work that we all like to be doing. That's the way we like to be pushing ourselves in these Rangers type podcasts. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Gourmet Burger, the Gourmet Burger truck. Just looking at it right now, where I just got myself a can of Coke and a portion of chips with gravy for £9. You know, it might sound like a lot of money, but it was really well spent, because I was struggling a bit. This is my snagging items already for this podcast last night. Jesus, 1 hour 42-minute podcast. I did 1 hour 49 minutes my preview pod for the Queen's Park game last year, and you see how that worked out. So I was pushing it a bit close, and I'm sorry folks, I went on and on a bit. I had a bit of a cold or a flu or something. It's obviously not a flu, but a wee cold. I just see adverts on the telly for all these wains in the Ukraine and Palestine and, you know, Sudan and stuff like that. They're having a hard time. Nobody cares about me. I went into the York Hill sick kids ward my way over, and I just said, anybody having a whip round for me? No, I'm feeling a bit snotty, not that, you know, I was feeling a bit down, so it was a combination of the usual having too much to say about the previous game and the next game, but also feeling a bit tired, what have you. But also, it was just, I wanted to make a point. The whole thing with the team getting booed off the park the other night, but every time I tried to make the point, I thought, oh, Alec, you sound like you're patronising other Rangers fans, telling them what they can and can't do at the fit. But so I hope I laced it with plenty of self-deprecation, self-realisation. I'm very self-aware. I hope maybe not too self-aware, but when I was kind of saying you shouldn't boo the team, and the worst it is, I just realised the day. You know, I mentioned it in the podcast last night when we played Fraserburgh last season. I said that's when we knew we were going to be. Well, that's when I first saw the possibility of us losing to Queen's Park. We're heading for a European quarter-final, and yet, before we actually sealed our spot in the last 16, we had played Fraserburgh in the first round of the Scottish Cup that we took part in. We won 5-0 against a team from a much lower league. They're non-league, Fraserburgh. So we've done the same this season by beating Annan Athletic 5-0 in the same round. You're thinking, oh God, is the same thing going to happen twice? But I thought, no danger, because that was a completely different game. The way we beat Annan Athletic 5-0 in the previous round this season, it's just a night and day compared to us only being 1-0 up at half-time against Fraserburgh last season, which is the angriest, I keep saying it's the angriest I've ever been at a Rangers game. When we were 1-0 up against Fraserburgh, and it was the fact that nobody else cared round about me as well as on the park. I'm thinking, they're non-league, and we're only beating them 1-0, and the players don't seem to care, the fans don't seem to care. This is the kind of attitude you can't let creep in. I should have booed that day. That day I should have booed. There should have been boos then. That's one of the occasions where we could have actually used it positively to wake the team up to themselves, but it bled into our performance. We obviously had a thing going on last season where it was like, oh, teams that are for the lower leagues, and that's not going to be a problem. We've just dealt with. We're unlucky to lose to Man U at Old Trafford. We've held Spurs here. We're holding Olympiacos. We're beating Nice in France. Not although it turns out everybody beats Nice, but we were big time Charlies in our minds last season, and it came to pass that Queen's Park inflicted the worst defeat in our history on us. So it's made me realise that my partner last night was not out of order. I was trying to qualify it all the time, realising that I'm being a bit precious, saying you shouldn't be booing the team. But I was realising the day, that was a time that we could definitely have been booing them, and then I finished that, but it's far too long, it's far too late. And I got through back through the living room, my missus, and with 2 episodes of Stranger Things left. We get the whole watching Stranger Things, and I just catching up with what the kids watch, and a bit late to the party as usual. But we've watched all the previous series, just got around to watching the final kind of it's 2 series within 1 series kind of thing. But we've only got 2 episodes to go. And we watched one last night, and my wife's like, there's something I wouldn't want to drink, because I was feeling a bit, no, that's the annoying thing, innit? If you spend the whole week complaining that you feel a bit under the weather, it gets to the weekend, you're like, oh Christ. If you're not feeling very well, you can't really justify drinking, because that'll just make you worse, won't it? That'll hit your immune system. You're a bastard. Bugger. But last night, I hadn't got any drink yesterday. I had the whiskey in there still, but I've still got a bit of whiskey left, but didn't want to do that. My wife's going, well, have some of that Prosecco. Because she gets a lot of Prosecco. She's a teacher, so the parents are all giving them presents at Christmas and all that. She's got a few bottles of Prosecco, and she's not really interested. And she's like, it's not very exciting. I was like, it's different, and it's just something different. I'll have that with a couple of packets of crisps, see how I feel. I'd already done the rotisserie chicken, so it was 2 wee. She's got a whole bottle, like kind of 75 ounce or 70 ounce, but also 2 wee mini bottles that you get in the your girls' weekend. You're heading off with the girls for the weekend on the train. The wee individual bottles of Prosecco. There's like one glass full basically, and one tall glass full. So I thought I'll try that. I mean, it's only like 10.5%, but you're thinking, it's just I'm quite happily sit here and have like a soda water and lime or Coca-Cola or something like that. So it's just look at it like that. It's not about the buzz. Oh, it's like anti-alcohol. It like totally instantly dries you out, like you're hungover after having like a 2-day session on the lager and the whiskey. But it does that after like a couple of mouthfuls. I pushed through and I did the 2 of them, but it was just it's having the exact opposite effect. I don't think I'll ever see that 70 ouncer. And then because I'd been so late putting the podcast up and all that, and then breaking it up and that, and she's like, that's once we've done the first episode of Stranger Things, she's like, I don't think the second one, it's 2 hours long. It's a big, the big conclusion, and that's it's basically it's a movie length episode, the final episode, and I'm like, just getting into this now. I'm just going to get into it. It was getting towards like 11 o'clock, and she's like, I'm not going to last much longer than 11:30, because she gets up at normal times and goes to bed at normal times like she's a normal person. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So just a whole world last night. I've just been kind of, so she goes to bed, and I sit and I'm just, what do you do, man? I don't want to drink anymore. I've been put off alcohol by this. I'm sitting on my own. I'm lonely. I'll just watch Fitba, and I am watching Cole Palmer scoring a first half hat-trick against Wolves at Molyneux. I'm thinking, God, if only we had players that could do that kind of thing. He's played in a European final, and he's played in the club. He's a club world champion. We just don't have players. They scored in the final of the Euros as well. Cole Palmer, we don't have players at that kind of level at all. They can get a first half hat trick in a game. But the day, James Tavernier goes out and does exactly the same thing. But I couldn't really sleep either. You're psyched up within the pod. You've not properly chilled out, and you're like, the last episode of Stranger Things, what's going to happen? And by the time I got up the day, by the time I got to sleep, it was like 3 in the morning. I got up the day a bit later than I should, and the game's kicking off an hour earlier, and you get the breakfast in, but I'm not really feeling right for my lunch yet, and I'm not hungover, it's just kind of a bit groggy. And I watched that game, absolutely buzzing. Rangers banging in the goals, that's absolutely fantastic. And I went out to go, I thought, I need something before I do the pod to get me going, before I can actually do this pod properly. I wanted some chocolate, but I'm not paying £2 for a bar of chocolate off one of these fast food places. But I thought, if I get a can of Coke, that's both a drink and it's sweet. And I had it with the chips and the gravy, and I just stood there at the lamps. I know there's a rat over there. I'll tell you last night, there's rats over there, and I just didn't care. I was standing over there, and I find a dead rat, and you think it's a treat. Well, I was having a treat next day where there's live rats, as far as I'm concerned, but I thought it was just light enough for them not to come out. And I stood over the lamps there that they have that they take out and they put on the pitch at Ibrox before they peel them in. They've got them in the car park here. And I had a wee can of Coke sitting. That's like a wee kind of shelf. I'd recommend it. Well, I had my chips and the gravy and that, and it was absolutely smashing, and that pepped me up, and that's made me feel every bit as pepped up as Rangers beating Queen's Park by 8-0 has pepped everybody up, I would imagine. At Ibrox, the players, the management, and it's cured any ills, I would say, from the other night, as slagging the team, getting booed off the park because they're only 1-0 up against 10 men at half-time. Probably a team that's bought with the Championship is equivalent maybe of Kilmarnock down to 10 men, and we're 5-0 up at half-time the day. Absolutely magnificent. Aye, so I'm sponsored by that. My name's Alec Anderson, and don't forget when your elders forget to say their prayers. Take 'em by the legs and throw 'em down the stairs. Oh, Budgie, hurry up. Hurry up, Budgie. When you think your toys have gone berserk, it's an illusion. You cannot shirk, you hear laughter cracking through the walls that send you spinning. You have no choice. Follow in the footsteps of a ragdoll dance, we are entranced. Spellbound, follow in the footsteps of a ragdoll dance, we are entranced. Spellbound, 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 oh. Spellbound, that's, sorry Susie, that's Susie Sue there with Budgie on drums, Stevie Severin on the bass, and the immortal, the greatest John McGeoch on guitar, doing a bit of Spellbound there. We give the kids a hard time, don't we? It's only Stranger Things. That's the only reason they're suddenly getting into Susie and the Banshees. No, spend your whole life slagging the kids because the music nowadays is nothing compared to what we had in our day. And the minute they show an interest in the music we had in our day, we slag them for that as well. They're too late to the show. They weren't born. They weren't born when it was. And if it wasn't for the kids and the fuss they've made, they wouldn't know about Stranger Things. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful programme. Although you keep watching David Harbour and thinking about he's managed to thing with Alan. It's really weird. What a weird guy, but it's fantastic in the never get to know the actors, never get to know them in real life. Just focus on the characters. So it's Stranger Things. It's Spellbound. It's not just about that. I did, it's very tempting for me to lash out at the middle class kids for getting into Spellbound and a bit of Kate Bush and all that. But I remember being in my bedroom. I was like 14-year-old, not that 13-year-old. I'm not going into details, but I had my wee stereo system and playing. It was a singles collection. I got Susie and the Banshees first. Folk never admit to that. It was like a greatest hits. Susie and the Banshees that first got me into them, but Spellbound had played that constantly. And when you think your toys have gone berserk, like a tom-tom effect for the budgie drumming and all that. It's absolutely. The whole point is Queen's Park were Spellbound. Queen's Park were Spellbound today. Visibly, right in front of us, they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle what was happening. The way Rangers were just playing them off the park today. There was little moments in this game. My name's Alec Anderson. As I say, sorry, this is the Fat Egg podcast. The kind of salon, the nail salon, the nail bar of podcasts where I take all your wee kind of raggedy and jaggedy opinions about Rangers and I file them right down so they're no scratch for Rangers. They're no scratch Rangers. It's all done with a nice bit of chat. It's a very hospitable environment. Do you want a bit of jasmine tea? Get a bit of jasmine tea. But also I'll buff them up and I'll polish and I'll get them painted, your wee Rangers opinions. By the time you leave, not only will you be looking absolutely fantastic and feeling heard and feeling loved, but you'll be happy to show your Rangers opinions in public and folk will be jealous because you've put them through the Fat Egg. What a massive opinion he has of himself. Nail salon, and I'm here to talk to you immediately after Rangers have beaten Queen's Park of the Championship, bottom of the Championship by 8-0 in the 5th round of the Scottish Gas. Sod that, it's a Scottish Cup, it's immortal, the Scottish Cup. It's just the Scottish Cup. Sod your sponsors. Scottish Cup by 8-0, 5th round Scottish Cup. We beat them 8-0 Queen's Park. That's what I'm talking to you straight after, and we go on into the quarter-finals, meaning we're still on for the double. I don't know when the draw. Maybe the draw was made straight after that. It probably wasn't it? Is that the last game this weekend? You probably know who we've got, and it's probably Celtic, and it's got to be Celtic at Parkhead that we've got in the next round. But what a fantastic day! There was a point today where a few kind of salient moments, shall we say, notable moments for folk like myself who were here last season. Seb Drost, who scores the only goal of the game last year, when Queen's Park put us out of the Scottish Cup this stage last year, he gets taken off the 89th minute, I think, 88th or 89th minute. He goes off and it's 7-0 to Rangers, and he goes off the park, and then we complete it, we make it 8-0. James Tavernier, I'm convinced, his first goal today to put us 2-0 up, I'm sure he scores it from almost exactly the same place, at exactly the same angle that Seb Droge scored the only goal of the game for Queen's Park this Sunday last year. Queen's Park, I don't know, what's the fella's name? I can't remember. But he has a go at Bajrami. It's 6-0 at the time, perhaps 7. I don't think we made it 7-0 yet. It's 6-0 deep into the second half. Nadeem Bajrami's kind of got his back to goal and he's trying to pick a pass. And this Queen's Park player goes out the back of him like, I'm angry. I'm not taking this. I'm angry. And even that wasn't working. They weren't getting that kind of we're from the lower leagues, we try harder against you prima donna sort of thing. You shouldn't really mess with Albanians anyway. I mean, unless you're Liam Neeson, you shouldn't really mess with Albanians. And that was Bajrami, who is a total laid back kind of character, that kind of footballer, but he was going to kill the guy. He was going to kill him. He's going for him. And the guy gets booked by the referee. Rangers players are trying to hold off Bajrami. It just looked like a dunt in the back to me, but it was like, you fucking wee prick. I'm getting it. And there was a corner on it. He's going for the corner like he's a centre forward, Bajrami, because he wants to get close to the guy who has dunted him in the back. We weren't letting this go at any point in this game at all. There was also, when Queen's Park did have the ball in the back of the net, it was miles offside, but they had the ball in the back of the net, a move that would have made it 1 each if this had counted, but just turned into a kind of horrible horror movie type scarecrow that's come to life version of the goal they scored against us last season. And the point that really struck me was round about, it'd be probably 34, 35 minutes. We are 3-0 up at that point already, and it's down in the corner between the main stand and the Broomlin Road, and the Queen's Park players, there's Rangers players all over him. Diamandi's coming towards him. He's got the ball down there, but he just does that thing that you could probably do at any other level of football, where he's like, right, I might be a championship player, you might be, playing in Europe and all that kind of thing, Mr. Diamandi, but I'm going to just smack this ball straight off you, because you're right on top of me. You smack the ball straight off you, it'll come off you and it'll go out for a shy to us. And the rain had just come on at that point as well. You get beat 3-0 in the rain, which has been on and off all day, but it had come on during the game for the first time. So this guy's soaking, he's knackered, they're 3-0 down already, and he just thinks, well, I'll just rattle this ball off Diamandi, and the ball just sticks to Diamandi, and he turns and he's away. Rangers are in again. It's just nothing was working for them at all at Queen's Park at that point. And the most patronising, horrible thing I can say is that I felt sorry for Queen's Park. That's probably the most vicious thing you can say in football. You get people doing that all the time with Rangers, like Celtic fans. I feel sorry for they're just at it to have a go. But this isn't a kind of game. What happened last season isn't something we can avenge. You can only get revenge, I think, in the kind of connotation of that term, if it's against somebody who has done you wrong. If there's a bit of evil, a bit of villainy on the part of the perpetrators. You can maybe even have that thing where we've played somebody else like Celtic have beaten us, or Aberdeen perhaps are beating us, teams that have won things in the past and are in the same division as us, and you maybe gloated about it a bit too much. You think that we'll avenge that by beating them next time and get back in their face. But everything, the only villainy, the only poor behaviour, the only kind of bad rep from the game last season where Queen's Park beat us, it was on the Rangers players. It was Rangers that did us wrong this time last year. And my admiration for Queen's Park, even though they've turned professional in 2019, why the hell shouldn't they? Everybody else, it's just so we can have a nice stat, a nice wee kind of anecdote, a bit of trivia for Scottish football. Queen's Park, they're actually amateur, they still get amateur status. That's why they've been ploughing the bottom flight of Scottish football for the last 60 odd years. To no avail. No, they should go pro. And I hope they make the best of it. I've got so much admiration for them as a club. I've got so much interest in them. I find them utterly fascinating, really romantic as well. I wish they'd changed their kit back to the thinner Victorian stripes. That kit that they're wearing today, the same one they wore last season, is absolutely lovely, but it just looks like it's really cool. It's just aesthetically a really cool look. The kind of black hoops, but the white sleeves and the white kind of side panels. It looks basically. I'm a Russell Martin Rover supporter. That's my local team, my non-league team, if you like, that was growing up with. That would be a really good kit. Winton sometimes with black and white stripes, sometimes with black and white hoops, but that's a cracking Winton Rovers kit. It's a really good East Stirlingshire kit, but it's not a Queen's Park kit. Get back to the Victor. Use your USP. That's what everybody else in the world that makes money does. They take something sincere and sell it for all they possibly can. Get back to those Victorian thin hoops, the black and white hoops, and the white socks and the white shorts. Just do it properly. But I've got so much time for them, so much admiration for Queen's Park, and there's times in football, if you go to football a lot, despite the pain that what Queen's Park did to us last season has caused, and this, us beating them 8-0 today, doesn't eradicate it. If anything, it actually accentuates how crap we were last season, the disgrace for us last season, but also how brilliant it was for Queen's Park. You know, they've lost 8-0 today. In and of itself, nobody would really have a problem with that. That's not a surprising result. But if you go back the way, it puts last season's result in perspective as to what a fantastic achievement it was for Queen's Park. We can't always be making ourselves the centre of attention. But I just feel as if today I'm watching them, and you get moments in football where you have to actually kind of admire the opponent, where you have to say, I can't say I was proud of being there last season because it was such a horrible feeling. It was so horrible. I was stood outside the ground, as you know, in the post-match reaction pod last season, and I was shaking, actually shaking, and it was nothing to do with colds. And I couldn't do my usual boring spiel at the beginning of the pods, even when Rangers, have a draw in the league or a wee setback against a top flight side, or we lose a European game, and I'll do the kind of phlegmatic, you're not going to get me annoyed, 20 minutes of ranting and raving about something, the stuff I've been ranting and raving about for the past 20 odd minutes, just to put off the ambulance chasers, the Celtic fans that will be visiting the pod for a bit of schadenfreude and stuff like that, the fans of opposition teams. I couldn't even do that this time last year. I stood here this time last year because it was just awful. It was so bad that I just had to go straight to talking to Rangers fans who deserved to hear from another Rangers fan just exactly what I was thinking. There could be no insincerity in that podcast last year. But still, because I know about Queen's Park and the Scottish Cup and how they've won the Scottish Cup, most times outside the old firm, and they won the first 3 Scottish Cups. Vale of Leven won the next 3. Queen's Park won the 7th, 8th and 9th Scottish Cup. They won 10 Scottish Cups altogether. The last time on the final was 1900, but they still won the Scottish Cup twice more than Aberdeen and Hearts. Fantastic, and they provided the first 11 for the first Scotland international. The first international ever played in the world. We drew 0-0 with England in November 1872. I just find them a fascinating club. And Scottish football basically owes its life, I think, in so many ways to Queen's Park. They invented passing, the whole concept of passing football. The Scotch professors, Queen's Park are such a part of that. The pride that Scotland has in the world, Celtic couldn't win the Club World Championship, the Intercontinental Cup as it was known, when they won the European Cup in 1967, but Queen's Park were just the best team on the planet at a time when, admittedly, not a lot of the rest of the planet was playing football, and if they were, they'd only started playing football, but at times Queen's Park, just like the Scotland national team back in those kind of mid to late Victorian days, was the best on the planet. Queen's Park are that, and it's a matter of great pride, and for them to have turned professional like 6 years before what they did to us last season, like a statement, like a kind of, here we go, we're back. We stayed amateur and you buggers went professional, and you just crucified us. We never won a league title. Queen's Park, by the time the league had been introduced in the 1890s, it was too late for us. The professional thing had already outstripped us because we stuck to our principles. You buggers get to go and hoover up all the trophies. Well, there's one back at you. You couldn't help admiring that. Same in 83, lost the 83 Scottish Cup final. Keep it Scottish Cup. Lost the 83 Scottish Cup final, and I was there, and it was Aberdeen. Aberdeen, especially Alec Ferguson's Aberdeen. Not a lot of time for that team and the atmosphere in those days, but it was a bit better than getting beat off Celtic. Celtic winning the league titles, but they beat us 1-0 in that Scottish Cup final, and there's only 2 times that the Aberdeen team that won the Cup Winners' Cup. The Gothenburg side, they only played twice, they only started 2 games. One of them was that Cup Winners' Cup final in Gothenburg, and 10 days later against ourselves in that Scottish Cup final, they beat us 1-0 after extra time. And I was there that day, and I feel pride about that. I do feel Scotland have only won 3 European trophies, club trophies, and I was there to see the team that had won the last one. Against Rangers, just taking the part, just being there in the same stadium, and that was a bit of a privilege as well. No one I don't want to boast about. So today, there's no revenge, there's no Queen's Park. It's more about Rangers, and I realised this when, what goal would it be? How nice is that? It's talking about Rangers. What goal was that? I can't even remember which one of the goals it was. I think it was the third goal. I think it was the one that put us 3-0 up, where the goalie punches it into the back of the net, basically from Tav's corner. And I thought that's a shame for that guy. He's an absolute nightmare. but it was a fella in front of me. I hadn't even clocked. Maybe I think they've changed the goalie's kit or something since last year. And that's been enough to fool me. But the fella sitting in front of me is going, oh, that's the goalie. I'm sure the goalie punched that straight in, but Tav got the goal. He was credited with the goal. He said, that's Ferry. Ferry's the goalkeeper. I'm like, what, Callum Ferry? It's the same goalkeeper as last season. And it's that horrible thing that we have experienced as Rangers supporters, where your greatest glory, and obviously Queen's Park's greatest glories came in the 1800s, but for Callum Ferry, him saving that penalty in injury time against Tav last year, then Tav steps up today and puts that penalty past him as well, just to kind of confirm that we're all about catharsis for the game last season. His greatest moment is saving it. And it was a wonderful penalty save from Tav in injury time to stop what people would see as the inevitable happening, that Rangers were obviously not going to lose to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. And we get a penalty in injury time to equalise and take it into extra time into the Copeland Roads. And Tav's like one of the greatest penalty takers of all time. And up he steps, and Callum Ferry saves the thing. It was a fantastic penalty. He basically wins that game for Queen's Park as well. A moment of immortality for him. Following a year later, it's a kind of horrible thing. You have to go back to the same thing. It's like when Rangers won we got to the final in Manchester in 2008. The first time I'd seen Rangers in a European final. 36 years I'd waited for that. Basically, I didn't really know about it. 1972, I was only 2 at the time. But basically, we'd waited 36 years as a club. I'd waited most of my life. A European final. Oh, this is it. We lost the game, but okay, doesn't it matter? Wow, this is fantastic. It didn't matter at the time, but okay, it's just I've seen Rangers in a European final. This is great. Let's go again. See what we can do. I was almost like, that doesn't matter. I can die now. I don't have to see Rangers in another European final. But for us to then, back in the arena of European club competition, our very next match, our very next tie, we're getting put out by Kaunas of Lithuania. It's just like, it's horrible. It's absolutely, it's awful. It's almost like, England won the World Cup, but the first team to beat them after they won the World Cup is Scotland at Wembley. Those bastards. Celtic won the European Cup, the first team to beat them after they won the European Cup. They've been like a glamour-friendly, Alfredo Di Stefano's testimonial. They beat Real Madrid in the Bernabeu as well. And they come back to Scotland, play Rangers in the league, and we beat them. We beat them at Ibrox. We're the first team to beat them. It's that kind of horrible thing where you don't want to... We got to the final in Seville in 2022, then the following season. And we're back. That's what we've bookended the whole time in the lower leagues and all that. Well, in a European final 2008, into the bottom tier of Scottish football 2012, back to a European final in 2022, before any other Scottish clubs even get past the knockout stages after the group stage. We're amazing. It's fantastic. That's it. Our troubles are over following season. Champions League. It's a condensed Champions League. And we get humped every single game. It's a record doing for any team in the 4-team group format. I felt that Callum Ferry today, this isn't fair. I just felt that isn't fair. I'm not caring. We had to win 8-0. That was good. Rangers fans had deserved that. We earned that. Rangers owed us that, if you like, as a club. But when that boy punched the ball into the back of the net, I'm thinking, this is shit for him. It's like the memory of what he did last season. Hopefully he can separate it from today, and it's not a case of it'll always be there in the back of his mind. You know what I mean? I'm talking about, I feel sorry for the guy. It might sound like I'm actually trying to tell him, you'll forever. I don't mean that. That's like when Gary Smith scored the own goal that won us the League Cup in 92-93, in the extra time in the League Cup final. I just met Gary Smith a few times earlier that year. A mate of mine was, maybe a year before that or something like that, a mate of mine was best pals with him. A colleague of mine, a guy I was at work with, and we'd play fives every Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. And one night Gary Smith came along. He basically stood there and just stroked the ball wherever he wanted to. You couldn't get anywhere near him, obviously. But he was just, what a lovely guy. He's chatting away. All right, Alec, what you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. Chatting away. Lovely fella. We were totally in awe of him. And then there he is. He's scoring the own goal. And I'm like, all right, it's Gary Smith own goal. Oh, no, I felt heart sorry for him. But same, a bit of that today. The starting 11 today for Rangers. I was trying to predict it last night. I did know, but I didn't think Dujon Sterling would have been anywhere near the squad today. I thought he'd maybe get the 2 games off, but our head coach knows how to rotate his team. And away we went. So we do John Sterling starting at centre half. Tav, the captain, did play. Now, I don't know what this means about Tav. I don't know what Tav's situation is with the new head coach. I'm thinking today, like, if he wants to keep Tav, he needs Tav for Motherwell at Fir Park on Wednesday night, a far more important game, certainly an infinitely more difficult game. You're thinking, if the attitude to Tav is he's going to have to play less games, he's going to have to get rotated more because he's getting older, basically. He's getting towards the end of his career, but we still need him, he's still vital. We'll pick and choose the games he's playing. We'll kind of basically wrap him in cotton wool. This is a game you wouldn't have played him. I think he would have, but he's played him in this game today, Danny Röhl, Tav, and he's played him the game against Porto, which was a bit of a dead rubber for us. That was also a game we just kind of had to get through. I don't know. I really don't know. But then Tav steps up and scores a hat trick today. So I think it's just a case of he's kind of, is he second choice to Max Aarons? When you try to say that, no. But I think he's going to be second choice to John Sterling if we can get John Sterling fit. You know, Tav doesn't play at Parkhead. He comes on late on at Parkhead. Doesn't play at Parkhead. It's John Sterling that plays it right back that day, and it really worked for us. So it's quite a thing. It's a thing to watch. But Tav obviously is going down fighting. He's still our top scorer this season. He keeps making himself our top scorer. John Sterling is on at centre half. I thought Tav might have come in and played at centre half. It didn't feel right to think that John Souttar was going to play today. He's somebody else who probably needs rest. He's still constantly on the way back from an injury, or we don't want to risk him too much. But Fernandez not on the bench at all, not anywhere near the team. So I hope he's okay. Neither was Chermiti, who was 7 stitches in his foot after the game against Hibs. So it was Giga and Sterling at centre half, Tav at right back, and the Romans, the new Belgian signing, that's him getting his first start after his kind of Rolls Royce appearance as substitute the other night. He gets a first start for the club today at left back. That's Jaden Magoma going to the bench. It was Liam Kelly in goals, a bit of catharsis having played in the game against Queen's Park last season. He's all in orange today. Jack Buckland on the bench, and it was Chukwueze and Diamandi. I think I predicted that it was going to be Chukwueze and Diamandi. Nico Raskin on the bench, never got a game, never got on the park today at all. On the left hand side, it was Oliver Antman. I thought Antman would be involved, but I didn't know if he would start. I was going for Bajrami to start, but Bajrami was on the bench. It was Antman on the left hand side. We had the one and only Skov Olsen on the right hand side. And up front, it was Majowski and Naderi. I thought it would be Majowski and Naderi. Up front, we go kind of 4-4-2, and it was at least 4-4-2. By the second half, it was basically 2-3-5 we were playing. But you've got the 4 new signings, the 4 January signings. I was predicting last night we would win 10-0, but apart from anything else, apart from the kind of the symbolism of that, and the 10-0, it was because I knew we were going to have £20 million worth of talent that we just assembled. We've got in the January transfer window. We're going to be on the park today. There was no question these guys were going to have to start, but they've all got enough match fitness about them that they were. You've seen Skov Olsen's game picking up to the point where he scores against Kilmarnock off the bench the other night after 2 kind of indifferent starts, where he's clearly just getting his match fitness back after not really playing a lot of football for Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. Two Romans had come back from an injury, but he's been playing all season for Westerlo, I'd imagine. And Chukwuaze's been playing on and off and getting himself more and more involved in games. And it was the big man Ryan Naderi who came off the bench the other night. He starts the game today, and he got the scoring started. Where it's a Tav corner. This was it was. It was 3 Tav corners. It was balls from the left-hand side that got 4 of those goals in the first half. 3 of them coming from Tav corners. Left, Skov Olsen was taking, I'm assuming he was taking a left-footed corner on the right-hand side. So maybe this is the kind of studying the level of professionalism we're getting from this new coaching staff. They're just like, in-swingers, hit that goalkeeper. Tav's probably going, what, the goalie that saved that penalty for me last season and kept a clean sheet, hit him straight away. And that's what it was, goals to the left-hand side. It was, I think, did we have a shot? We did have a wee shot, maybe early doors. And it was 8 minutes in when we got the first goal. Tav corner for the left-hand side, right-footed. And I noticed it straight away as we're setting up for the corner that Ryan Naderi, the £4.7 million signing from Hansa Rostock, was in acres of space, not at the back post, but kind of past the back post, at the back of the box, at the opposite end of the box. No Queen's Park players anywhere, no Rangers players anywhere near him. And I'm thinking, all right, just kind of lob it towards him. That's what Tav did. He just misses out the goal altogether, goes right past that, right to the back post, and big Naderi comes up and just stoops like one of those little, those kind of nodding giraffe things you can sometimes put in the end of a pen or something like that. Just kind of basically, he's completely level, but he just tilts himself right forward and heads it under the goalkeeper. That's it, 1-0 to Rangers after 8 minutes. This is the kind of start we need. Queen's Park have the little equaliser, which is offside, but I think, okay, right, let's not get too cocky, because we're already, it was just before that we had a moment where the Queen's Park player was kind of pushing his way. The Queen's Park are pushing their way up towards the halfway line, and Chukwueze kind of missed a tackle. Diamandi goes in there and he gets closer to the tackle, and then I think it was Nasser Jiga come in, just slid right through the fella and won the ball. And I thought, Rangers are up for this. Rangers are not taking their foot off the gas. They're treating this game professionally. But then when Queen's Park subsequently, like a few seconds later, put the ball in the back of the net, I'm thinking, no, maybe that was just a sign that Queen's Park are going to run right through us, and they will eventually get back into this game. You weren't really sure how it was going to go at that point, but it was, what was the second goal? Was that Tavai? That was a corner. I don't know who took that corner. It couldn't have been Tav. The corner, but it wasn't from a corner. I don't know who put that ball in. Was it Antman perhaps for the left hand side? Somebody's floated a ball from the left hand side of the pitch right over towards the back post, and Tav's come in at the back post and drilled it in, a la Seb Drodge against Rangers for Queen's Park last season in this fixture. We then had, what was the next one? The third goal was Tav again. The corner, that's the one the goalkeeper seemed to punch into the top corner. I started feeling sorry for him, but the Tannoy announcement said it was Tav's goal. So that was 3-0, but 2-0 up within 18 minutes, 3-0 up within the half hour, 4-0 up within 40 minutes, 5-0 up by half time. Rangers were not getting booed in the tunnel at half time today. What was the fourth goal? It's great. We actually can't remember who scored. That was a penalty. Was it handball in the box? Can't even remember what happened for the penalty. Up steps Tav. You're thinking maybe right. We're probably already got the game won here at 3-0. But maybe Tav's going to have a wee moment. Maybe this goalkeeper's going to get a bit of pride back. He's going to save a penalty from Tav. Was I willing him to do it? I don't think so. I wasn't feeling that sorry for Callum Ferry. Tav goes up and slots it away. So it's a bit of redemption for Tav as well in the case of this game, this fixture, what happened last year. 4-0 to Rangers. And I immediately turned to Davey, who sits behind me, because I know he likes that kind of thing. I'm like, last time a Rangers player scored a hat-trick in the first half. I'm struggling to remember Rangers players scoring hat-tricks. The last time a Rangers player scored a hat-trick in the first half of a match, I'm getting back to like maybe Marco Negri. Negri must have got 3 in the first half of that game against Dundee United. His first league game, the day we lifted the flag for 99. So that's basically 1998. 1997. Aye, looking at August 1997 is. We must have played lower league teams and put a barrelload of goals past them before, but even the Annan game in the previous round we won 5-0. Majowski only scored 2 in the first half of that game, so I don't know. It's one to think about anyway. But then we had the fourth goal. That was another corner, and it was Chukwueze, another Tav corner, around about 39 minutes, something like that, and Tav flicked it on. Sorry, Chukwueze flicked it on. Didn't he go in straight away? But the Tannoy announcer told us it had, and it was such a strum. It looked like a bit of an own goal from where we were sitting. It looked like a bit of a nightmare for Queen's Park again. Our corners were destroying them, but our physicality is destroying them as well. Even Skov Olsen, who's obviously going to have the dainty skills, he's very much of the Danish school, the Brian Laudrup school. So Brian Laudrup was huge. He was huge. When you saw him compared to other players, you realised it was actually just a massive unit. You were just so used to players who are kind of really skills-based, can do the dribbling, that speed away, being small. Skov Olsen, also a massive unit. We're just filling their box with muscle and brawn that knows how to play football as well. So Queen's Park, all at sea. Turned out it was an own goal, but at the time we thought it was Chukwueze. That was 4-0 and 5-0. Oh, am I getting mixed up here? No, Tav made it 4-0 with the penalty. It was Chukwueze, just before half time, who made it what we thought was 5-0, didn't we? First one for. I'm losing track. Didn't get enough Coca-Cola and chips. So the first goal is for Naderi. There's a hat trick from Tav. It's just a hat-trick, just straight. He scores the next 3 goals. And then it was Chukwuemeka, but it turned out it was actually an own goal. Down the tunnel at half-time, 5-0. I'd predicted 6-0. We'd be up 6-0 at half-time. I predicted that on my preview pod last night, so I was booing them. I was just booing them right down that tunnel. Absolute disgrace. But didn't have to wait long. We change at half-time. It was Bajrami coming on for Dujon Sterling. So Dujon just getting a run out, the manager looking after him. And that meant that Tav did eventually go into centre-half, and Oliver Antman came over to the right-hand side. Bajrami went into the left-hand side, and Skov Olsen just went into the middle. We're I think, as I say, we went kind of 2-3-5 at that point in time with Majowski and Naderi and Skov Olsen on the middle. Absolute nightmare for Queen's Park. And it's like 3-4 minutes into the second half. Oliver Antman, any kind of inkling that we might, any suspicion we might take the foot off the gas, Antman goes on the right hand side, ball over, and I just think Colin Steen. Colin Steen's he's just before my time, Colin Steen, but I feel it's like a Colin Steen type header. The footage I've seen, the things I've read about Colin Steen, the things I've heard about him, it was just old school winger hitting the byline, and before he hits the byline, pulling a great cross over towards the back post, to the middle of the goal, and in came big Naderi, a third division German striker scoring against a second division Scottish club. It was a cracking header. So that's two headers he scored. Big Naderi, we thought Chukwuemeka had scored at that point, but he would score. So 2 of the new signings have scored today. Skov Olsen, he scored the other night. We really just need 2 Romans to get a goal, and that's it. We've obviously spent wisely in the January transfer window. That was a 6-0 up. I think it was at that point, in the hour mark, we brought on, we made a triple substitution. Rabbi Matondo, come on. That's a final insult to Queen's Park, so that's me insulting Rabbi Matondo, that's out of order. Rabbi Matondo, come on. I think we brought on Magoma for 2 Romans at that point, standing ovations all round. And who else, come on? Mikey Moore, come on. I think about 5-10 minutes later. Oh, somebody else. I can't remember. Magoma, substitutions. 8 goals, 5 substitutions. There's no way I'm going to remember all that. But we made a triple substitution on the hour mark after the half-time sub as well. But there was no real let-up. And it actually got to the point, I have to tell you, this is why I had to get the chips and the Coca-Cola, which I'm obviously still buzzing off. I started falling asleep. Not actual falling asleep, but I just kind of... I didn't know. The eyes didn't actually shut. The head didn't go forward. But because we were 6-0 up, there was no danger of any, of us. No danger of a repeat of last season's scoreline. There was no danger of a cup upset. That was done within like 18 minutes. But then you're 5-0 up at half time. That's so satisfying. And you're 6-0. You've even got a goal in the second half. You don't have to worry about us tailing off too much in the second half. And I think because of all the angst at half-time the other night as well, there was just a general, suddenly, this is so nice. Yeah, I was tired because I'd stayed up and I hadn't got to watch the last episode of Stranger Things and all that kind of, but it was just, it's just lovely. And it was that and the way Rangers were knocking the ball about. We were just knocking the ball about so completely within the Queen's Park half. Tip tap, making the little runs, the overlaps. It was some lovely skills close up for Skov Olsen, etc. It was getting kind of exhibition stuff, but it was ASMR. It was really, it's just so relaxing. It's so nice, so comfortable, it was great. It was absolutely lovely. Queen's Park had their other moment. I think they may have only had 2 attacks the whole game. They certainly the only attack they had the second half. They had a wee shot from the edge of the box. That went past the far post and everybody's told, it was like we wanted Queen's Park to score, which was utterly patronising. I started thinking, well, if Naderi gets another goal, that's 2 hat-tricks. I've ever been at a game where Rangers have scored 2 hat-tricks. There's been 2 different hat-tricks, but I probably have. And there's probably some really obvious examples, and I'm really embarrassing myself by not knowing them off the top of my head. But honestly, when it comes to when's the last time there's a game with 2 players scoring a hat-trick, I was like, all I could think was the 1960 European Cup final with Di Stefano and Puskas, and it was at Hampden, which is Queen's Park's home ground, so there's a link, but I couldn't. It was against Eintracht Frankfurt, who we played in the European final and who beat us in the semi-finals that season back in 1960. There is a Rangers link there, a Queen's Park link, but I just could not remember a game where 2 different Rangers players had scored a hat-trick. It didn't quite happen, but I think the 80th minute, I don't know who put the ball in. I think I've heard it's Jaden Magoma. I thought it was Mikey Moore that plays the ball in for Majowski, who must have been raging. He's playing the whole game, Bojan Majowski. He scored a hat-trick in the previous round against Annan Athletic, and he's watched Tav getting a first-half hat-trick already. And it's just, but Majowski gets in there, he gets a goal to get himself back in the running. I think he's maybe joint second top scorer around about that kind of mark anyway. But Tav, again, is away in front. It's like the fact that Naderi scores the first goal today. It's almost like you've got to pay your dues, though. You've got to give the bosses upstairs their cut. You know what I mean? When you go to, anybody asks you, it's a lot of money for a young guy. Anybody asks you, you won this in Vegas playing craps. You know what I mean? It's just, you've got to give the skim off the top to the bosses. And it's Naderi's coming. Oh, I've scored a goal in my first start for Rangers. I am a striker, and we're playing a lower league team. I think I might get myself. No, Tav's the boss. No, Tav does all the goal scoring. No, he'll not be here next season. Just let him. And Tav comes in and gets himself a wee hat trick in the same half. He scores the next 3 goals, as if they say, just remember who scores the goals around here, son. But he got himself a second goal. Did Naderi to start the second half? And there's Majowski getting a goal as well, knowing his place. He knows his place. That was 7-0 to Rangers, and I started thinking there's 10 minutes to go here. As I say, I've never seen Rangers scoring more than 8 goals in a game, and I had predicted 10 now. Maybe there's a chance of that if we're going to keep this up and Queen's Park get more and more tired. They made a triple substitution as well, Queen's Park though, and it was the 90. It was a lovely move, which I can't remember any aspect because it was also very satisfying. It was almost kind of soporific. They moved the ball about beautifully, and you're thinking, this is going to be another goal. And big Chukwani goes in, and Chukwani definitely, for a change, it was a goal from a foot. And I think that's the first time. I think I'd already seen the first time when we scored the goal 4 minutes into the second half from Naderi. I think that was the first time I've seen Rangers scoring from open play into the Copeland Road during normal time. And again, before injury time. I think it's the first time I've seen us doing that since about 1978. So that was quite a big moment. And then we've done it 3 times, and I think it was 89 something on the clock when Chukwani scores that goal. And I'm going, I've never seen. I've got to shut up. I'm getting to the point. I talk too much in these pods, but it's led to me talking too much. It doesn't stop you. It's not like I get it out of my system here. It just makes me more chatty in life in general, especially when it comes to Rangers. I got myself a bit overexcited. I mentioned this last night. I wasn't in the game against Valletta. The first game against Valletta where we beat them 10-0 at Ibrox, our second last home game in the European Cup, Winners' Cup, the only European trophy we've won back in 83-84. We won that game 10-0. I wasn't at like we beat Kilmarnock 8-1 at Rugby Park in the late 70s, early 80s. That's another game that I wasn't at where we scored a lot of goals. Basically, I could only ever think I've seen Rangers scoring 8 goals once before. I might be wrong. Don't worry about this. Don't be fretting about this. I will check for you. I know you're dying to know how many times has Alex seen Rangers scoring 8 goals. I'll check that out for you, and I'll come back to you with the confirmation. But I think the only time I can remember being in the stadium, being in the ground when Rangers have scored 8 goals was it when we beat Hamilton 8-0. That was during COVID. Sorry, Stranraer. It was Stranraer in 1989, February 1989. So basically, 37 years ago. 37 years ago, I was a young man. I was 20. I was 20 years old, and I was thin, I had hair, played football, stuff like that. I wouldn't be drinking wee single bottles of cava at night time. I wasn't watching Stranger Things. I was doing Stranger Things back then, and just drinking like an absolute fish. But Rangers won 8-0 against Stranraer in the Scottish Cup at Ibrox. It was the Saturday game, and I was there. And that's the only time. So I'm turning to everybody going, that's the only second time I've ever seen Rangers scoring 8. I've never seen them score more than 8. I've never seen them score more than 8. And it's like the place is full of Waynes. By that point, they'd all left, obviously. It was I think the crowd was running about the 36,000 mark today, but it was the back of the Brimley in particular, very, very patchy. The front of the Brimley pretty patchy as well, but it's that thing where you're walking, I'm getting out the car, and you walk to the end of the street, and then there's a feelist, and there's the wee Wayne standing there like 2 inches tall with the biggest fucking Rangers scarf you've ever seen in your life, done in that massive big. I can't even get my Rangers scarf around my neck now. I used to put my Rangers scarf around my waist when I was going to Parkhead. Walking along London Road, and I just get a Rangers scarf around my neck. I remember a guy once, a Celtic fan, an older fella, stopping my mate and I and just saying to me, "What was it he said? Your brains are showing." and my scarf was down between my legs. That's how much slack I used to have with my Rangers scarf. I tied it around my waist, and there was still enough that had gone down below my jacket and was showing beneath my legs. Now Celtic fans like, you're going to end up getting your head kicked in if you don't sort that out. Very nice of the guy. So I kind of get so seeing the Waynes with the blue the scarves on that are just they're down to the ground and all that, and they've done like 3 knots from them. But that you guys really cute. That's I'm smiling at his dad going, I get up for the game and all that. And then you get along to like you're just walking along towards past the KFC and all that, and then there's a wee Wayne, with the Rangers scarf. Oh, super! That's really cute and all that. And then you get to it and you start, oh no, it's not in the season ticket. This is where they bring all the Waynes. So the Waynes turn up, it's like a creche. By the time you get to Ibrox, there's a wee Wayne, a beautiful wee Wayne with the earrings and the scarf and all that. You're just like, no, you're going to have to say something cute now. I'm all out of cute appreciation. Come on, the Rangers, you have to say Wangers. You have to say it cute. That's not working. You're done. I'm used up. You get in there, but I was the biggest Wayne of the lot today. Right, Chuck Manny's number 42, Naderi, he's number 20. I better remember this for the podcast. Naderi's number, so I end up sitting, I'm saying like some, when you're at school, you're trying to remember all the players' names and stuff like that. Right, he's number 20, Naderi. Chuck Manny, he's 42, because Raskin's 43, so he's 42. Romans, he's number 25. And who else have we got? Scott Olsen, he's 7, he's been classic. Outside right, number 7, that's fantastic. And I'm then going about going, I've never seen a score more than 8. I've never seen a score more than 8. And all I've done there is not only show myself up as being like a 56-year-old Wayne, but I've also set myself up with all the folk that sit round about me. Because the final whistle goes straight away. I still got slagging. We've won 8-0. I've showed enthusiasm for the fact, because everybody's just like, that's another goal, this game's long done. Folk have started leaving and stuff. And I was like having a bit of banter going, is that you away? I mean, the game's in the balance. It's in the balance. It's only 7-0, you know what I mean? But you win 8-0, and everybody else, I still end up getting a slagging because folk are going, you're not fucking going to see a 9th goal today, are you? As the ball goes in the back of the net, I'm getting really excited at a point where everybody else is just thinking, this is really done, just let's get him. I predicted 10-0. I'm thinking with injury time we could probably, and it just the moment I said to myself, injury time, I thought I was complaining with the Annan game, wasn't I? I was complaining that the Annan game were 5-0 up, but we only go 3 seconds at injury time, despite there being like 6 substitutions, 10 substitutions in the second half. Same thing. I'm like, it's going to happen again, is it? And as soon as the ball get put back in the spot, the referee didn't even let it re-kick off. It's like 7 seconds at injury time the day. I suppose it all goes back to, I'm still paying the dues for the other horrific result of the calendar year 2025 when we lost 6-0 to Club Bruges. At least this isn't the biggest result we've been involved in this season isn't against us anymore. Slightly different scenario, but when Bruges beat us 6-0, I remember when they were 6-0 up against us, this is going to be 10. This has to be 10. And today I had the referee only played like 3 or 4 seconds at injury time, and that it's something that he's looked into. We benefited then, but Scottish Cup and all that doesn't really matter because it's a knockout thing. But I don't know. Comes to top scorers and tournaments and things like that, you're denying rules should always be applied really, really anally, because that's rules are about that. But there was no more. It was about 7 seconds of injury time. And it was 7 seconds after the clock had gone that he didn't play on again after we scored that 8th goal. So I was gutted. I've seen Rangers scoring 8 for only the second time in my life today, and it was absolutely lovely. And it's lovely to tell you folks about a lovely Rangers game where everything just went absolutely lovely. And now I'm just going to go up the road and get myself. I've got lasagna. I'm going to have lasagna, chocolate, but I'm not in any hurry for it. Because I could wait at least 5 minutes because I had the chips and that Coca-Cola. I've got something else I could tell you, but I'm just pushing it too far. 53 minutes. What the hell? I did 1 hour 42. This is going to seem like a short one anyway. Just yesterday I was. The minute I realised the game was on Prime, it's on Prime, right? I better set myself up. And first things first, I remembered last year. Recording the game would be on Prime last year. And you set it up because I know I'm going to the game, but I also want to make sure I record it as well. So I go in there and you get through the menu, and I just suddenly had that cold remembrance of making the joke to myself. No, when you go in, I don't know how your TiVo works, but you go in and you press record. You find Rangers against Queen's Park, Scottish Cup, 5th round, Ibrox, Sunday. And you hit record, and it comes up with that option because it's a football match. Do you want to record for an extra hour? An extra half an extra half hour, an extra hour. No, because it's a sport, it might go to extra time. And I'm like, I don't know what I did last year. I'm assuming I did. I think I always, just in case, my kind of mantra is you never know what's going to happen in a game. So I maybe did. I probably did press the extra hour option when I recorded it last year ahead of time. But you end up in a situation where you were wishing it could have went to extra time. As I'm pressing record yesterday, a year ago, for Rangers against Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup, it's just oh God, the idea that Queen's Park are going to take us to extra time, and by the time we're having that penalty in injury time, I'm thinking, please God, let this go to extra time, please God. And we get, so it was that moment. But also what then happens is I've had to flick over to Premier Sport, and you're in the menu and it's sport, and because I'm just, the social conditioning of the heterosexual man, I see moving colours. A sports channel, and it was a rugby match, and it was England against Ireland, and then straight, I only know enough about rugby union to know Ireland played last night in the Six Nations. So how is this England? So you kind of look a bit closer, and it's England. It's a kind of, I think it's reserves team, because it was IR 15, IREXV, IRE space X. Up in the wee caption up the left hand side, it's got the scores, and it's England A against IR 15. I'm thinking, well, why is it England? Why is it no Ireland's A team against England's A team? Why are they calling? I know you get like the New Zealand Maoris and that kind of stuff. That not all kind of second string teams. It's an A international, which is really, as we all know, a B international. But why are they calling them? Oh no, because it's like Irish rugby A would be IRA. And I've got a few loyalist community friends, if you want to say, that are very much into the Ireland rugby team. It is for the whole of Ireland. It's all, or both parts of Ireland, if you want. Oh gosh, Alec. But that's why you don't want to have IR. It was like IRA, even just to say it, IRA. That's no good. That's no good look. That's why they call it Ireland 15. And I'm looking at and I get that thing, because it's moving colours of the players. That's what attracts it. And then I go straight to the stadium. If it's a different sport, I'm always looking at it thinking, is that going to be, is that a stadium that would look good holding football fans? And it has held football fans, but I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't know much about rugby union, but I've seen this stadium before. And when I'm flicking through the channels, I think this is one monster play. This is monster play here, don't they? So I'm going to think that is, I think I thought to myself, that must be Cork. I bet it's Cork. And I looked up on Wikipedia. I haven't even pressed record for the Rangers game yet. And I'm looking it up on get the phone out, look it up on Wikipedia, and it tells me Musgrave Park in Cork, and it's all red seats as well. Those red seats, and it's I don't think that's the same statement. I'm looking at it close. That must be the stand that the cameras are in, because the stand I can see on the picture on Wikipedia isn't the same as the stand opposite the camera. Then I see the other stand at Musgrave Park, which is, I think it's Irish Independence Park or something, is its other name. I'm like, nah, that's different. But its capacity is 8,000. That looks like it holds more than 8,000. You're getting about 10,000 in that terrace and behind each goal there, and that stand's bigger. And it turns out it's actually Limerick, and Limerick, of course, played Real Madrid at the irony of ironies at Lansdowne Park in the European Cup. The Limerick Football Team and the Limerick Football Team have played here. It's a Thomond Park. I've heard of Thomond Park. That's Thomond Park. It's got red seats and all that, but it's Munster definitely play there. But it's Limerick, the place at Thomond Park. And I'm like, look at that terrace, and they've got in front of that stand opposite it's like a brand new enclosure. You don't get a terrace and do with the Fitbit. I love it, and that's why I even love the hurling in that. Sometimes you look at Croke Park and is it Gate 13 or something? The big terrace they've got behind the goal. That looks amazing. Imagine playing the Fitbit there, and I know they played the rugby there, and that was a big deal, but when the Viva Stadium was getting built, or Lansdowne Road was getting rebuilt into the Viva Stadium, all this stuff's going through your head, all these wee things, and as I'm pressing the menu to flick ahead to get through Saturday into Sunday, I go through and I see what else is on is going to be on Premier Sport that night, and it's fucking Argentinian. I'm like, is that the Argentinian Premier League or the Primera División? Is that the Argentinian top flight? They're talking about, fucking hell. They've got Boca Juniors against whoever and Racing Club against whoever. This is phenomenal. But I can't keep recording entire games. I never watched I don't have time. But I want to see the stadiums. I want to see the colours. I want to see Argentinian top flight football. I wish the highlights programme. There is a highlights. I found a highlights programme. There's going to be a highlights package that takes me back to when I used to watch it on Setanta. They'd have the Russian top flight. The Russian top flight used to be on Setanta, and I recorded it every week. I'd set I did the old, you get a link, you set up a series link, instantly hit the series link for the Argentinian stuff because I want to see Huracan. I can come on to the podcast and I've watched Huracan. Oscar Cortez gets a start. I'll have the skinny. I'll be able to see the whole game that he's played. So everybody else who supports Rangers who's got Premier Sport, but it's just going to be watching. Just like, this is how Oscar Cortez is going because he still plays for us. It's still linked. But I just want to see the stadiums. I love Argentinian football because you've got so much European football these days. I've been to La Liga. I've been to Serie A. I've been to Bundesliga, Zwei Bundesliga, Drei Bundesliga. I've been to Serie B. I've done all these things. So it's almost like the old kind of exoticism of European club competition I'm now getting out of the South American club competition or Russian domestic competition that was back in the day. The ones that you don't see in telly all the time. You don't get just gives the highlights so I can see the stadiums and get a feel for things. And I remember falling in love with it's the most brutal. Look, when you think about Russia, you just think everything's like Siberia, and it is. Used to watch the Russian league highlights. Aidan McGeady was playing for Spartak Moscow at the time as well. That was one thing that always kind of ruined it. But it's at Samara, the stadium in Samara. Oh, you saw it. It's during the World Cup. It's a fantastic brand new stadium. No, when I was watching the highlights, they didn't play the. What are they called? Luhansk. Oh, what are they called? Oh, Zorya. Oh, I can't remember the name of the team. What is the name of the team that plays? I'm thinking of somebody else there altogether. The team that plays in Samara. But they played in the Metallurg Stadium. Anyway, they used to play in the Metallurg Stadium, which is the most Krylia Sovetov, that's it. But it's the most kind of Russian, Soviet Union type name. And the stadium they used to play in, it was basically, see if you took the East Stand, the Easter Road, the big stand at Easter Road, it's all one big rake. It's opposite. It used to be the massive terrace they had. It used to be the East Terrace at Easter Road. And it's the stand that's opposite the cameras last Sunday. And if you took away the roof, you took the roof off it and you took the end screens off it. You said it's sitting there like a massive kind of overturned pyramid. Right in the length of the park, it's just this big block of concrete. And I looked up on Wikipedia once and it said in 1976, was it from 56 to 76, it was wooden benches. But after that, they turned it into concrete steps, concrete seats for everybody. It's just basically, and there's no other stands. There was no other stand, or tiny wee stands, if anything. And it's always snowing. And it just looked like the most brutal thing. Even for the supporters, it was the most brutalist of brutalist architecture you've ever seen in your life. Especially, you are going to the middle of Siberia, there's nowhere near Siberia, to sit on a concrete block to watch this shit team at the bottom end of the Soviet top flight, or the Russian top flight as it later was, and then they moved to this fancy World Cup built venue, which is just totally crap. Amkar Perm's ground was just unbelievable. I used to love all that kind of stuff, and it's the same way. It's got to be the same in the Argentinian league. I've seen the stadiums and I've seen pictures of them. I've seen various. I'm obsessed with Argentinian football. I just want to, before I die, go and spend like a year staying in Buenos Aires. It would take a year to go to all the grounds in Buenos Aires that are worth seeing. I just have these teams you never heard of or something. And I thought, who's this? Not Platense or whatever. They won the league. They're the Argentinian champions, and I'm looking at the Argentinian league and I'm going, aye, because it starts in December, and it starts in January, it ends in December. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's a month. That's like a month off. It's the Apertura and the Clausura thing where they have two different divisions, two different basically versions, two different runnings, two different shots at having a league title in 1 year, in one calendar year. They're running the length of the calendar year. They don't go across. They have two championships, the Apertura and the Clausura, and they both count. I mean, Argentina have got like 6 teams going into their equivalent of the Champions League, the thing with the Copa Libertadores. It's absolutely mental. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, but how's this working? I never got my head around this. I'll just quickly look it up on Wikipedia. No, you've basically got, it splits into 2 leagues. Not only is it 2 league championships in 1 season, but the two of them, they split all the teams into 2 groups. And it's like, Boca Juniors and River Plate, Independiente, no, that's the El Super Clásico, and you're Independiente and Racing Club, the Avellaneda derby as well. They're in different groups. So you play everybody in your own group, home and away, and then you have these games, the inter-group games. But that must be how you get your derbies set up, which is just like the MLB, we have like the Chicago Cubs will play the Chicago White Sox in a derby, but it's two different conferences that they're playing. And after that, they still have They still have like a kind of playoffs at the end of the season to decide who the champion is. It's absolutely bizarre. It's mental, but I was totally interested. I was totally fascinated. I was totally riven by it because I love sport. I love football. I love all sport. And the reason I'm loving it so much, I suddenly realised, no, when we get put out of the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park last season, you didn't give a shit about any other sport in existence, far less any other football team. Never mind any other football league, never mind football in any other country. The fucking joy it brings to your life when Rangers just do what they're supposed to do. And that's all that's been happening so far. They've just been doing what they're supposed to do. And it makes everything else fascinating. Beating Kilmarnock 5-1 the other night. You know, coming out and beating Queen's Park 8-0 tonight. The more Rangers do well, the more time I have got for life in general. And also, if that's a tenuous point, I was talking about this last night on the preview pod, how when we had to circle the wagons in 2012, all the fascinations I have. Oh, Alec, you're right into European football. Oh, you know as much about, you know, the UEFA Cup and the Conference League, and you know as much about the Cup Winners' Cup in the 1970s as you do about, you know, how Rangers are getting on the top flight. It's only when Rangers are winning. It's only when Rangers are doing well. It's only when Rangers are doing the basics, when they're not causing us panic, when they're not causing us heartache. Because the minute things go wrong for Rangers, I found out in 2012, I lost all interest in all other football. I know there's a lot of Rangers fans who will never be back to see the Scotland national team. I struggled along a few times then, but it wasn't as long as we were getting back to what we should be, that I found it a bit easier to go back and watch Scotland. I don't really watch Scotland religiously or anything like that, but I'll go along to a few games at least every year to see Scotland. But it's just, and the idea of like Match of the Day and all that, it's only recently I've get back into watching Match of the Day, watching the English highlights, something that used to obsess me. I used to love it and all that. When things go bad for Rangers, it's just all about Rangers. It's just, and the beautiful thing was I was just feeling this buzz about sport in general, a total interest in stadiums, and that's because Rangers under Danny Röhl have just got things back to being lovely, and that's why I went in a big rant last night about us not booing the team when they're doing so well for us. And also, that little rant there is the rant that maybe I should have given you at the start of the podcast this Sunday last year. But it was just so brutal that I couldn't do my be boring, get rid of all the Celtic fans. But so this time I've done a wee be boring, get rid of all the Rangers fans rant at the end of the pod, and I'm just going back now to have my lasagna and watch the 2-hour final episode of Stranger Things, because tonight everything is absolutely back to normal. Rangers against Queen's Park. A year ago, Rangers against Queen's Park was very much the upside down.